Hello and welcome to another modding tutorial for 7 Days to Die. In this one I'm going to show you how you can add in some new weapons using existing assets in the game. Now you won't have any new customized uh, models, the actual models of the weapons and whatnot. There are ways to do it. I don't know how to do that yet. I prefer to keep things kind of simple, and mostly what I've learned so far has to do with troubleshooting and adding in small things here and there. So I'm not an expert, I'm not going to claim to be an expert, but I can show you how to do some basic stuff. Let's just say, for the case of this particular one, I'm going to show you how you can add in some new shotguns. Or, a couple of new shotguns and a new gauge of shotgun shells. And let's say that that's all you want. I'd like some more shotguns in the game. I don't care if they look different. I just want some new stuff in the game just to spice it up, just to change things up a little bit, add a little variety. So the first thing we're going to do is, let me go ahead and bring up a different Windows tab, or Google tab. Here, just a tab. And we're going to look at shotgun gauges. A chart, that'll work. So we're going to assume, I think 12 gauge is the most common gauge for shotguns. And of course I gotta do this bullshit because I use a VPN. Apparently that means that I'm a horrible person, because I want some extra security. I'm not a robot. Let me do a goddamn search. Motherfuckers. That'll do. Let me check this out. Slow, slow, slow. Alright. So yeah, we got 12 gauge in different sizes. There's 16, 12. I don't really know that much about 4 gauge. So the smaller the gauge, it looks like the bigger the shell. See, I thought it was the other way around. It generally is with firearms, but it looks like this is. It looks like with shotgun shells, the higher the number, the bigger the shell, or the lower the number, the bigger the shell. So let's just go ahead and make a couple of notes here. Just got some paper. So if we're going to assume that the basic shotgun is using 12 gauge, which I think is the most popular gauge for shotguns, let's go ahead and look at doing like a 28 gauge, and let's really upgun to a 4 gauge. That's a big ass shell. So we're gonna put in a couple of new shotguns using existing assets. We're just going to upgun and downgun the weaponry, so you have a bigger spread of damage potentials. So let's go ahead and we could use some custom, or we could find some. I'll go ahead and do this. I'll show you how to put in your own icons. So let's go with a 4 gauge shell. And if you don't do this sort of thing if you're ever talking about, if you're going to do something that's in any way, shape, or form commercial, because you should never just take other people's pictures. They're, usually on copyright. But since we're just making a mod here and trying to do this something quick, okay, we can go ahead and save image right there. Go ahead and take this. I'm just gonna save that, and then the other one was 28 gauge. I'd rather not use a brand name, but we can still use this particular picture. Just save that as 28 gauge shotgun shell. So now we have a couple of images we can use. Here is Notepad++, and let me go ahead and show you what I've already made. There we go, the new shotgun mod. So the first thing you need is a modinfo.xml, which is a very small, simple file. And you can find the information for all this stuff on the Wikipedia page, the 7 Days to Die wiki. You can find the basic information, because I don't know how well you'll be able to see this. View, can I make this bigger? Yep, I can make it bigger. There, now you should have no trouble seeing it. So it's very simple. This just tells the game what the mod is. But you do have to have it. Otherwise it won't load in properly. At least I don't think it will. But there's no reason not to do it. It's very simple. You just need to tell it, XML, the version, get a name, description, the author, and a version. So very simple, straightforward. You will need a UI Atlas folder, which is where you'll put your icons, and then a config folder, which is where you put all your actual mod files. In this case, there are 5 files we will need to mod. So let's go ahead and open these up. It's traders, recipes, loot, items, and item modifiers. Let's go ahead and start with items, because that's where we're going to put our shotgun. Then what we want to do, go ahead and close that down. Let me find, let's see, the mods folder, because we need to go into data, config, items to start with, because we're using in-game stuff that's already there. We aren't really going to be putting in anything particularly new. We're just modifying something that's already in the game to add some more variety. So what we need at this point is search, find, shotgun, next. We're not going to do the blunderbuss. Okay, this is too big now. But let's go ahead and do the double barrel and the pump shotgun. And we want to grab the entire item, both items, all the way. And we're going to put those in twice because we're going to do 2 different versions of each. And we also will need, let's just go down here so we can do next. Shotgun shells. And we should just go ahead and grab all of that stuff too. Items, and we can stick that in down here. Go ahead and scratch my nose, fix my glasses. Just there for a second. Okay, so we can't just leave it like this, because it doesn't know what to do with this stuff yet. You have to have some kind of opening and closing tags. This seems to be the most commonly one used. It's just config, so that's what I tend to use. But I don't think it matters what you put in there. It just has to be an opening and closing tag. but configs works. It makes sense. It's configurations. But we need to tell the modifying functions in here what we want these what we want done with this stuff. So we go ahead and come back to mods, and the easiest way to learn how to mod something is to look at what other people have already modded. So again, let's just look at Snufkin's scrap tools, which is good. We have items and recipes here, and look and see what this is. So what do we need here? We don't need to worry about that. What we need is the append XPath items, because that's what we're going to do. We're adding stuff to the items file. And then we close the append tag there, save it so we don't lose anything. Okay, so now we have 4 different shotguns that we've added in, and 3 shotgun shells. We actually need to double up on those 2, because we are adding in 2 different types of shotgun shells. So all in all, we are adding in, 10 new items. Okay, so let's go over here, because we do need 1 extra tag that is not in the base files, which is custom icon. There we go. So we're going to need to add that in to pretty much all of these, which is not a big deal. You just can put it in after display type for pretty much everything. Doesn't really matter what order you put most of the property tags in, as far as I know. Save it. Alright, so now let's go ahead and do our icons right quick. I'm going to use the free editing tool GIMP for this, and I'll show you how to do it. This is a from beginning to end tutorial. You get to see how to do the whole shebang. And to find mods that you can look at for examples, 7 Days to Die mods.com, I think it is, or there's Nexus mods, and you can look up stuff there. So we have GNU Image Manipulation Program, aka GIMP. Go ahead and bring up my documents folder so I can get those 2 images. Actually, better way to do it is to go ahead and go back to configs. That one still would have worked. That is the size that we're working with. That makes it easy. Create a new layer with that button right down there. We can get rid of that one entirely with this button, or just make it invisible, which works. Alright, so this function right over here allows you to drag stuff. And I'm not going to try to make this look super pretty or anything. I'm just looking to put something in quick. Let's see, I want the eraser. That is not optimal, but whatever. Can get rid of that. Let's go ahead and leave the box more or less in. So it looks like a box of shotgun shells. Alrighty, we can use the magic wand tool or the color selector to get rid of all that stuff. Should be able to. Okay, that doesn't want to cooperate. Let's select invert and just cut it. There we go. Go ahead and go back to the eraser and get rid of some of the shitty artifacting that's around it a little bit. So it doesn't have that white border clear around it that makes it look really bad. Not that this is going to look particularly great when we're done, but again, the point here is just so you can see how this is done. Fuck it. That'll do. You knock the size down and it doesn't look that bad, so go ahead and I'm just change it up, use a filter to make it a little bit different. And there we have, need to export it, export as, and we want to put it in the UI atlases, export it as a PNG file, that's important, PNG. And then we can go ahead and do the other one, which is an odd looking file. Go up to layer, scale layer, try 120, scale to that, that's too small. What is the image size? Scale image. It's 160 by 160, so layer, scale layer, 160 by 120, that'll work. Go ahead and make it bigger. And I don't really want that brand name in there, so what we're going to do here is just get rid of all this as much as we can. This is go ahead and use that magic wand tool, the color selector, to remove as much of that as possible. I'll try to get rid of as much of this black over here as possible. Go ahead and put that right there. How does it look at 100%? That white border, as always, looks awful. How about just a blur effect on the edges. That's way too strong, so no. Blur selective. Nope, not working. So the only way to do this is to go ahead and get in really goddamn close with a smaller brush. And get rid of some of this white border. I'm going to have to try to get rid of all of it. Just get rid of enough so that it's not glaringly obvious. There. It's not perfect, but it doesn't look as bad as it did. And now we have export that. I need to change the name of the other one, but that's fine. So this is 28 gauge shell. Go ahead and export that. We can close down GIMP because we don't need that anymore. Back there, just that. And this was what, 4 gauge shell. Alrighty. So then the next thing we need to do, because we don't need necessarily go to item icons, and we need to find the 2 shotgun icons that are already in the game, because that's what we're using. Okay, so there's the icon for the double barrel. Double barrel, go ahead and replace that for that one, and then that for that one right there. We could give the icons their own tints, but no real need. There's the pump shotgun. Let's go back up a bit. Go back up, and there it is. Nope. There we go. Back down. That's our shotguns taken care of. And we're going to say shotgun shell, ammo shotgun shell, and instead we're going to go 28 gauge shotgun shell. And we're just going to copy 28 gauge and do the same for those. Then down here we're going to go 4 gauge, do the same thing. Alright. Yes, excellent. Excellent. So that is the basic stuff taken care of as far as putting in our new shotguns and shotgun ammo. Oh no, we need the icons. Put that in there. Yo. E. Four-gauge shell, four-gauge shell, and four-gauge shell. Again, we could create 3 different icons for those shells, but that's the sort of thing that if you want to, you can. You don't have to. You could just use the basic shotgun shell images and not have to worry about it at all, but this way it's a little more customized. Okay, so that's all those taken care of. So the weapons themselves don't really need to be altered at all, other than maybe magazine size or things like that. The only other thing we do definitely need to change is that we still need to change the names of the shotguns themselves, and we need to change this in particular, because that's what actually is able to be loaded into it, the magazine items. So let's go ahead and go back up and say this is double barrel 28 gauge. Let's go ahead and copy the 28 gauge because we're going to need it for the next one. Get rid of that. Pump action 28 gauge shotgun. Save it right quick. And just go down. Double barrel 4 gauge. Screw it. It's not like it's a lot to type. Pump action 4 gauge shotgun. Save. Alrighty. So then what we would want to do, I'm going to do right quick, is just get a file. I'm just going to save these names. I'll move it over out of, you won't be able to see it, but all I'm doing is copying the 6 different shotgun shell types. And actually I'm going to go ahead and arrange them with the commas, which is how you separate them. Go back up here to the 28 gauge, and where the magazine items are, just within those quote marks, 28 gauge shotgun shell, 28 gauge shotgun slug, 28 gauge shotgun breaching slug. And then we can copy that. Come down here to pump action, same thing. Then we do 4 gauge. Nope. Copy that. Come down to the pump action. Paste that there. Save it. that's a typo. Glad I noticed that. Those are the sorts of things that will definitely cause issues. Make sure that there's not a typo down here. 4-gauge shotgun breaching slug, 4-gauge shotgun shell, 4-gauge shotgun breaching, shotgun slug, and shotgun shell. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's just a typo. But those are the type of the sorts of typos that cause issues. You also don't necessarily need spaces in there, although I don't know that it really makes any difference. But just in case. I don't. In fact, just because I'm not 100% sure on whether or not it matters if there's spaces in the names as well. Because coding can be very finicky like that. Sometimes spaces don't matter, sometimes it completely fracks it up. So I'm going to go ahead and, just to be 100% sure this will work, I'm going to make sure that there's no spaces here. Generally speaking, as far as I know, as long as the names match and they're separated by the commas and inside the quote marks and all the tags and stuff, it should work. But I'm going to go ahead and play it safe here. Okay. So let me go through and explain some of the tags here for the weapons, because we don't really need to change the weapons. So the tags themselves are what identifies the weapon. Things like perk boomstick tells the code and everything that this is a shotgun, and the boomstick perk is what governs it. If that isn't there, it will screw up and the weapon won't work. It'll show up, but it won't work. And you also need that for like this stuff down here that affects damage and whatnot. So really, we don't need to worry about any of this stuff, because the damage of the weapon, usually for ranged weapons, is governed by the ammunition, not the weapon itself. All this stuff that adds random values and whatnot, it's all the same for all the different weapons, usually. There are a few exceptions. The rifles add extra damage, which is something you have to look at, but for the most part, you don't have to worry about it. But just to differentiate between these weapons a bit, so this is the double barrel 28 gauge. And we can look at, so we don't want to change the magazine size, it's a double barrel. But something we can change is like the kick degrees. So I believe that the way this should work is that a lower number should mean that there's less kick. Hopefully. So let's just go ahead and make this 2.2. It's a lower gauge, it shouldn't have as much kick to it. We'll do the same for the pump action. But the 4 gauge, now this is a powerful weapon. It is much more, should be much more of a kick. So let's actually take that up to 7. It's going to have it kick like a mule, if I'm doing this correctly, and I hope I am. I haven't really messed with the kick degrees before, but what the hell. So also let's look at degradation. Count degradation. degradation per use. And let's go ahead and take that up to 2 for the 4 gauge because it's a powerful weapon. You know, it's going to degrade a bit faster than other weapons. We'll leave it alone for the 28 gauge. And also the pump action 4 gauge, I'm going to say magazine size. Let's go ahead and drop that down to only 5. And for the 28 gauge pump action, let's go ahead and make that 12. That's probably not realistic at all, but again, it's a smaller size shell, so let's just go ahead and go with 10. A couple of extra shells. That seems a bit more reasonable. Alright, so that should take care of all that stuff. So now we have to mess with the ammunition. So if the basic damage without any modifiers, any randomness, for the basic shotgun shell is 11.2. So we're taking the 28 gauge is much smaller, so let's go ahead and make that an 8.2. The slug entity damage base is 96. Let's make that 66. And the breaching slug, same thing, 66. And the breaching slug also does extra damage to doors, I believe. Damage door. Yes, extra damage to doors. Door 1,000, so let's go ahead and drop that down to say 700. So we've got our lower impact shell. Now let's kick this sucker up. And I mean, it's a significant shell, so let's say 16.2. And we're going to go ahead and let's just be absurd and say 196. Why not? And we'll go ahead and add. I mean, this is a monster of a shotgun shell. And it actually is a monster of a shotgun shell, so 196 is probably way too much, but in fact, let's go ahead and knock that down to say 176. It's not that much less, but screw it. Alright, I think now the block damage actually should be different too. Didn't think about that. The shotgun shell block damage 5.4. Let's take that down to 3.4 block damage. We'll just drop that to 10. We'll say 50 and 100 on that. This one already dropped that down, didn't we? Oh no, I changed the wrong thing. Or I didn't change both of them. Yeah, okay. And instead of 80, it was what, 50, I think? Yeah. Okay. And 4 gauge block damage, let's just take that up to say 7 and 30. take that up to 140 and 300. And then this one up to 1500, change the display value to 300. And what did I put there? It was 140, 140. Alright, so now we have our new shotguns and new shotgun shells. So this stuff will be added into the item file. But then what? Well, it won't show up in the game. It would be added to the loot or the items file, but it wouldn't show up in the game. So we have to make it so that they can show up in the game. So that's why we need the loot table file. So again, we're going to be adding some stuff in, but this is a little more complicated. Item icons, we need to go back to mods so you can see everything, because Vanilla Firearms Extended is one I've modded the mod a lot on this one. But we want the loot tables here, so we can look at this. So what we're going to need is we're going to look at all these different tables here, and the ones we want are that one and this one, which is the loot containers and the loot groups, regular and advanced. Right. And that's regular tier 2. We also want tier 0 and tier 1. Yeah. Right. And then we're also going to need this one, which is group quest ammo. We'll definitely need that one. Then we need insert before group quest challenge, because firearms have to be added in a certain way to the loot tables. Go ahead and scroll down. Grab that closing tag for the insert before function, because in this case we don't want to just add it in. It needs to go into a certain place, so it's inserting it after where it needs to be, so it's in the right place. And in this case we're going to need 4 of these tags. There's already a couple of shotguns in that particular mod, so just grab those right quick. And then we also need to put in two new loot groups for those. And then after that we're going to be appending some things. In this case we're going to be appending ranged weapons, And this is not in, this goes after the insert before closing tag, because now we're actually adding things to existing loot tables. In this case, Tier 1 ranged weapons and Tier 3 ranged weapons. Oh no, I guess Tier 2. We don't need Tier 3, we need Tier 2. Yeah. Well, Tier 2 and Tier 3. We're going to use both, I think. We're not going to have an auto shotgun for either model of these. We could. It's just a matter of adding that in on top of the other two. But in this case, we're going to say that the pump action 4-gauge is a Tier 3 weapon, the double barrel 4-gauge is a Tier 2 weapon, the pump action 28-gauge is a Tier 2 weapon, same as the pump action regular shotgun, and then the double barrel 28-gauge is a Tier 1 weapon, same as the regular double barrel. Oh, I have problems with my left knee, so I need to put my leg up. Sorry for that delay. Okay. So I think that's everything we know. We also need to put in schematics. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab both of these. We're not adding in any melee weapons, so we don't need that one. Copy that. Alright, and just a little bit of cleaning up right quick. Because we don't need all this stuff. Okay. Just a little bit of cleaning up so we have what we need ready to go, more or less. Don't necessarily want to get rid of all of those so we have something to copy into. In fact, I shouldn't have gotten rid of all those down there, because now I have nothing to add them in with. It's okay, I can grab that. Yep. Yeah. I cleaned it up too well. This doesn't give me anything back to work with. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is add in the ammunition. So we've got, you know, this is ammo 5.56 millimeter bullet ball. That's not what we're working on here. Can get rid of that, hopefully. Don't need anything else. Don't need that up here. Shouldn't need that. I can always bring it up again. So we come over here to our list of items that we're adding in. We've got a 4-gauge shotgun shell. And we can leave that alone. I'm going to copy that and put that into Tier 2 regular ammo. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to grab the 28-gauge shotgun shell. I hope you can hear me now that I'm leaning back a bit. I'm going to go ahead and copy paste that in there. Copy that and put it into Tier 1 and Tier 0, so the 28-gauge shotgun shells will start showing up immediately. We're going to go ahead and add this one also into Tier 3 ammo, so it will show up all through the game. And then we have Group Ammo Advanced, which is where we're going to go ahead and put in 1, 2. Actually, you don't have to drop them down a level. It's just easier to see what you're doing that way. And we need 4 spots here. So we can go ahead and put in the slug. I'll try to come back over here. The slug and breaching shells. Or breaching slugs, I should say. Although why a slug is considered advanced ammo when slugs are just as common in shotgun usage as anything else. I don't understand or quite get that, but whatever. I mean, it's not like slugs are in any way equivalent to armor-piercing or hollow-point ammunition, which are regulated. Slugs are not, but whatever. Whatever. Okay, so then we also have the quest ammo, which is ammo that can show up for quests. And we'll just go ahead and add those in, but because this is for potential, what you'd get for quests, you don't want to put it in like that. I mean, go ahead and come back to the data over here, config, and we can look at what it is, what it looks like in the basic loot tables. And we're going to search for, what it was, quest ammo? Yeah, group quest ammo. So this is what dictates how much of different types of ammo you can get. So we'll also go ahead and grab the probability tables. And for the 28 gauge shotgun shell, we'll go ahead and put it in at tier 1 probability, and we'll even do that for the basic 4 gauge shells, and then probably yeah, I'll say tier 2 for the others. What does it have? Like shotgun shells and slugs. You can't get the breaching ammunition from quests normally, but oh well. By the time you get to tier 3, if you have a steel pickaxe, you can break into safes and stuff so easily anyway. Whatever. And shotgun shells is 120 or 75, so you can go ahead and do the same here. 120 for, actually, let's do 50 for the 4 gauge, and we'll do 120 for the 28 gauge. And for the 28 gauge shotgun slugs, we'll do, what was that, 75 and 75. And we'll do, oh, let's say 30 for the 4 gauge. Okay, so that takes care of the ammunition for the most part. Now we need the weapons themselves. Double barrel 28 gauge will be in the first one here. Then it'll be the pump action 28 gauge. Then the double barrel 4 gauge. and the double barrel 4 or the pump action 4 gauge. So the reason why you have to do it like this is because when you get a weapon in the game from loot, it spawns in, you know, it from the loot table it comes in with ammo, so you can use it immediately, usually. It doesn't, toilet pistols don't have ammunition, but most of the other ones will. All the other ones should. So you have to put it in as a group, which is why it's a loot group. Then it's the name of the group, which usually will just be the name of the weapon, and then the kind of ammunition you want it to spawn in with. So in this case, we've got 4 gauge shotgun shells, which will come in with both of the shotgun, the 4 gauge shotguns, and 28 gauge shotgun shells, which will come in with the 28 gauge. And they'll spawn in with between 3 and 15, which is just, it's an okay default number. So then we have group tier 1s expanded. We don't want that necessarily, so let's, because that's actually the name of the group in the other mod. So if you just left it this way, it would conflict and throw errors. So you have to change the names. So in this case, instead of weapons tier 1 expanded, I'm going to put in weapons SG expanded for shotguns. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and put the tier 1 back in and just put tier 1 shotguns expanded and tier 2 shotguns expanded. So then what we need to do is we're putting in the, and also item group. Make sure I'm doing this right so we don't get errors. I need to go back to the other mod file, Snufkin, no, that one. Loot. Just make sure I'm doing this right. Tier 1 expanded item group, loot group name. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. Just making sure. So let me go back here, tier 1, tier 3, or tier 2. Go ahead and grab this. I thought I had, but apparently I was mistaken. Do not need all of that, just keep that one. Okay, so the pump action 4 gauge is going to be a tier 3 weapon, the double barrel 4 gauge, a tier 2 weapon. Go ahead and copy that in. The pump action 28 gauge will be a tier 2 weapon. And the double barrel 28 gauge will be a tier 1 weapon. Copy those. Then we come down here, and this is where we actually add these loot groups into the loot groups of the basic weapon tables for tier 1 range, tier 2 range, and tier 3 range. So we just grab the name there, or we just add in SG, but 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, really. Oh, SG. Alright, so that takes care of that stuff. Now we also need 4 more items that we're going to have to add into the items and then into this, which is the schematics. So we can just come down here to the bottom. And we want data config items, and let's go ahead and search for shotgun skim. That should. Here we go. And go ahead and add in those. So what we would just go ahead and change the name, double barrel 28 schematic. Pump shotgun 28 schematic. See, a lot of modding is just changing things like this, just names. 4 gauge, because just 4 is weird. Alrighty. Custom icon, those don't need to be changed. Unlocks does. So again, we'll come back up. And I should have done this earlier when I was grabbing the names of the shells, but now I'll need to grab the names of the shotguns. Down to the schematics. Double barrel 28 gauge is unlocked by this one. Pump action by this one. And you need to change both of these, otherwise it won't work. 4 gauge, double barrel 4 gauge, and double barrel, or pump action 4 gauge. Now we go back here, we grab the names of the schematics. Double barrel 28, pump shotgun 28, double barrel 4 gauge, pump shotgun 4 gauge. Go back up here, grab that, unlocked by that, come down here, unlocked by pump shotgun 28 schematic, double barrel 4 gauge, unlocked by double barrel 4 gauge schematic, and pump shotgun 4 gauge, unlocked by schematic. And we have the names of the schematics already, so all we need to do here is just kind of double up that. And for the lower tier stuff, which is really just the double barrel weapons, do that. and that. And that is the loot tables taken care of. Next is recipes, which is relatively simple, but still has to be done if you actually want to be able to build these in the game. So we come in here and let's just search for shotgun. We do need that. I'm not going to worry about the bundles. You can add those in if you feel like. I'm not going to worry about it because it's a whole other thing you have to deal with. I'm just taking the ammo. And we need that. Okay. So again, we need to go ahead and make append tags here. Go back to a mod so you can see it. Nope, not that one. That one. Config, recipes, and we're appending XPath recipes. And there's nothing fancy that needs to be done here. We are just adding in some new recipes. And we append their closing tag. Right. So now we need, again, and I should be saving all of these damn names, and I'm not because I'm being a dumbass. Keep deleting them instead of just saving them. Oh, bloody well. I can do this and speed that up just a little bit. So, like I said before, so much of this is just names. It's the names of things that matter. Alright, so 28 gauge shotgun shell, 28 gauge shotgun slug. Oh, that's not what I wanted there. Doesn't matter. And the breaching slug. Yeah. We got down now. 4 gauge. 4 gauge slug. 4 gauge breaching slug. Alrighty then. So the only thing we really need to change here is because I didn't grab the right, necessarily the right thing for there. That and the gunpowder needs to, and paper resource definitely needs to change. So it's 4 and 1, 2, 4, 1, 1, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1. Now what is the? I've already closed that one. Oh well. Let's just say that the 28 gauge will only take 1 bullet tip. The shotgun plug will take only one load of that, but we're going to use twice as much gunpowder for the 4 gauge. And we'll knock that down to, say, yeah, half. Why not? It is a smaller shell. And the rest we'll leave the same. Craftable on the workbench crafting tag, which is necessary. You can learn how to make those. Oh, hell, did I forget something like that? I did forget that part, didn't I? I didn't put in schematics for the ammunition types. But they're unlocked by books. That's different, which means you have to change the books. Okay. Okay, I know how to fix it. So we can go ahead and have our we just need a couple more schematics and add them in as well. This is not hard to do. So we grab a couple more schematics. Custom item, icon, I'm not going to worry about that. So, no, I don't need to do that. So, let's see, we've got, yeah. So, and advanced 4 gauge. Alright, and then we need it to unlock both of these. This should work. No, that was the wrong thing. Those. This, I think, would need to be separate. I want to say that has to be separate. Thrilling, I know. But if you want to learn how to do something, you need to learn how to do it right. There we go. We can go into loot and change that. Weapons, armor, that'll do. Tier 2. Yeah, whatever. Probably not 100% kosher, but screw it. You can always fix it later if it feels like it's not working the way you want it to. For example, in this case, just add it to the Tier 3 stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure that there is a Tier 3 schematics table. Might have to make one if you think you're getting this stuff too easily. Alright, so recipes. should be pretty much done for the shells themselves. Now we do the guns. But you can either leave them exactly as they are, or if you think that you want to change them a bit, you can. For example, I think the base recipe for the double barrel and pump action for the 28's fine, but the 4 gauge is a bigger weapon, so let's go ahead and take that up a bit. The rest can stay the same. We're just changing it up a little bit because it's a harder hitting weapon. I needed to adjust the seat there a bit. Alright, so we're actually almost done. We only have to do the traders next. So let's go ahead and go back to our vanilla firearms, because we're using this as our kind of a cheat sheet, if you will. And we need to append XPath. In this case, we're going to be looking for specific trader groups, guns tier 1, rare books, guns tier 2, guns tier 3, and ammo. So we basically need all of these, except that one actually. It's the only one we don't need. Alright, so we can get rid of most of these. Come back to our items here for the schematics. Just make sure all your schematics are in the trader table, so they are potential things that can show up to be bought. Make sure the names are correct and no duplicates. That's what will fuck things up. Alrighty, so that's the rare books, the schematics taken care of. We've got the shell schematics and the 4 weapons. Alright, now we have our guns tier 1. Right. So item name, we just need the names of the items, which in this case is only the double barrel 28 gauge. Guns tier 2, item name, in this case it's going to be 28 gauge pump action, and the double barrel 4 gauge. Rest extraneous. Tier 3, we have the pump action 4 gauge, and the rest can go bye-bye. We have the 28 gauge, and the 4 gauge. And let's see, we can also put the slugs in. but I don't think the breaching shot are usually available as something you can buy. Maybe they are. I'm not sure. And this is the range of how many you can buy. So 30 to 110. That 110 seems a bit excessive, but I'm gonna leave that alone for the 28 gauge. I'm gonna make that more like 10 to 40. And this is going to be 10. Let's go ahead and make that 5. Let's say 25 and 50. That seems like a decent number. Right, so that adds in the double barrel 28 gauge to the tier 1 trader weapon group, so on and so forth. And I believe that is finished. So the only thing left to do now would be to test it, which I will do in a different video, I think. The test will be I will put this mod into the mods folder, and then as we play other games and stuff, we'll see if it works. Now, if there's any troubleshooting I need to do, I will show you that in another video. But usually troubleshooting is things like when you load in a game of 7 Days to Die, if there's an error, it will show up scrolling through as the game loads in, and the code thing will pop up. The display will pop up above the loading, at the top of the loading page, and you'll see what the error is. To troubleshoot it, you look and see what it says. It will usually tell you what file it is, what the mod folder is, and what line of code is wrong. Then it's just a matter of looking at your code and going, oh, there's a typo there. Oh, that's a duplicate. I need to change that, and so it has a different name, or I need to remove that because it's, I accidentally pasted something in 2 or 3 times or something, and skipped over it when I was pasting in my other things that I wanted to put there instead. There's all sorts of little mistakes you can make, and usually most errors, it just comes down to troubleshooting typos and little things you missed most of the time. But this is a fairly straightforward mod to make. All we're doing is adding in some new shotguns, which are based entirely on the assets, the gun models that are already in the game. So nothing's complicated here. This is just adding in some extra code. And that should cover the whole thing that you would need to add in to do this. And the exact same process would apply for new rifles. You probably could have noticed, I don't know if you did, but when I was looking through other files, I've added in 30-06 rifles, 338 Magnum rifles, 50 caliber from using assets from another mod that the mod doesn't, or that I downloaded, that version of it wasn't working, but I was able to use the model assets and everything to create my own 50 caliber rifle in the game. So, and then there's other mods I've used that adds 5.56 ammunition for both rifles and machine guns. I've added in 454 Magnum ammunition and 357 Magnum ammunition and guns using existing and custom modded assets that I've borrowed from other mods and stuff. So there's lots of stuff you can do just by changing bits of code and adding it in with the modding functions of the game. It's not super difficult. You just have to put in the time to learn how to do it. And hopefully this has helped you. So thank you very much for watching. If this has helped you, please like, subscribe, share, and leave comments, because that helps the video get seen and helps YouTube see the video, or show the video to other people. That's just how their algorithms work. And if you have any other things you'd like to know about, ask in the comments and I will help you if I can. I will do videos on other tutorials and stuff for modding if I can help you. Because like I said at the beginning of this, I'm not an expert. I've picked up what I have by troubleshooting a lot of mods that I've wanted to use and just examining how they work. But if you have something you'd like to know about, I'll ask and I'll see what I can do. If I don't know, I'll try to learn and then show you. And that covers everything. Again, thanks very much for watching. This has been Mr. Acid. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.